welcome to this week's episode of the BKTY podcast. I'm your host, John Wynn, and today I have with me my co-host, Hallie Wright.
Hi.
We're both 19-year-old students at the University of Florida, and without further ado, let's get into today's topic. So for today, I want to bring us back to my childhood, where I was an avid reader. Literally, sort of the only thing I wanted to do when I was a kid was read, and I loved it quite a bit. I spent all my time in libraries, and I spent all my time reading books, and I especially loved big, long episodic series like the Harry Potter series and things like that. And it was sort of, at the time, I didn't really know why I liked reading so much, but it dawned on me as time went on that I really liked reading because it was kind of a way to sort of get away from everything else that was going on in my life. For context, sort of in my past, in my experience, my parents weren't always like the most emotionally sort of receptive towards me, and so when things went wrong or things went bad, my parents would often be really harsh or really had really high expectations for me. So in order to sort of get away from that, I always turned to books, and I would sort of read away my problems. And it was wonderful because like the books are such an excellent way of just kind of immersing yourself in worlds that are just sort of beyond like reality, that it helps you kind of sort of get away from the pressures that you may encounter in your life. And so that sort of big piece of my life sort of inspired the idea for today's topic, which is escapism. This idea that when things get really bad in our normal lives, when reality gets tough, what do we do to sort of turn and like get away from it, to sort of get out of our own heads and inject some happiness into our veins, if you will. So I want to throw it over to Hallie. I want to ask her, what do you do when you want to sort of escape the bad realities, or whatever's going on in your current life?
Well, honestly, I think in part of a way, I do it somewhat subconsciously. I think a lot of us just don't even realize that we're trying to escape our realities or our current situations by tuning into TV shows, tuning into books, like you were saying, even tuning into like relationships, or like activities like working out. I think you can really lose yourself in some activities without even realizing it. And once, upon reflection, you kind of sit down and realize, okay, maybe this is happening for a reason. Maybe I'm using these to cope with my current reality or escape my current reality. Kind of like what you were mentioning with books, and how that kind of allowed for an escape route of your reality growing up. So for me, I guess just I honestly don't even realize when I'm escaping. And that, I think that's like the hard part, because it's so often like hard to see when you're using things to cope with your current situation, or like when a hard time hits your life. Um, Falling into like a relationship super deeply, or falling into like a book, or falling into like a TV show, and just not being able to crawl out, or not seeing the signs of when, okay, that's kind of hitting like an escaping reality kind of level, like I don't want to deal with my situation. I don't know, that's like when it gets a little tricky, I guess.
Yeah,
So
I would agree. I agree with every point that you really just made, and
yeah.
of course, it's important to sort of realize that as that not all hobbies are necessarily escapism. You can read
Hmm.
books, you can watch movies, you can play video games, you can have your hobbies
Yeah,
that you just do for fun and as a passion. Like
for
just
sure.
just because you go out and you like play video games all the time doesn't mean you're necessarily escaping from anything, but rather you just enjoy it. But it's these activities that you do find also that a lot of people do use them to escape. It's sort of like a break from the rough mental world. And so with sort of like your ideas in tow, it's just like, how often do we sort of notice that these things are sort of our way out? Because I will pull another example sort of from my past, and that uh once I got past the reading phase, when I became a young adolescent boy in middle school, high school,
Oh god.
I loved video games. Video games was sort of like the backbone of all my time. I spent nearly 8 to 10 hours a day playing video games because I loved it so much. And at the time, I didn't realize sort of why I liked video games so much. But as I grew older, and so for context, I've struggled with depression throughout my main since I was about 13 in sort of my high school years. And what I realized was that sort of video games gave me the sense of accomplishment and like confidence that I didn't really have in my normal life because I was struggling with depression. And so when I was in my normal life, I felt like I wasn't up to expectations. I wasn't doing well. I felt sad and sort of like really out of it. But when I played video games, I felt confident and I felt like I was really accomplishing things, and it really supported me on the inside. Like I really wanted to sort of always be in that feeling of just, being on top of stuff and being really important. And it made me feel a lot better, as a kid who doesn't really know what's going on in terms of mental illness and things like that. And so
Yeah.
I really found that sort of the way in which you escape also matters, because it also shows sort of maybe what kind of feelings and what kind of uh, like environments you're trying to create within these like other facets rather than real life. So like you may play video games because you want that sense of accomplishment. You may read books because you love seeing these new environments and watching characters grow. You may do art or like hobbies to sort of hone a skill that you really really identify with. And I think like escapism is kind of this wonderful way of doing it, but I don't think it's always positive. I think that it's definitely a balance. Sort of what do you think are like the like possible negative effects of escapism?
So I definitely think some of the negative effects that can be experienced through escapism is you honestly can lose touch of reality. And you can almost avoid your current situation entirely and really dealing with the emotions that you might be going through, whether it's, growing up, you were reading books, escaping through that reality. That might have been a positive for you, but I know that in my experience, there's been times where I'll go through phases of escaping through different mediums and I'll get bored with one and I'll just kind of jump into another, all just to not deal with the emotions or the feelings that whatever time in my life is bringing along with them. So, for example, I will go through phases where I'll be really into like health and fitness. I'll be really into working out. I'll be really into eating healthy. I'll be into, just like maintaining an image, like a body image, not so much anymore, but I feel like a lot of girls kind of feel a similar way. And honestly, sometimes escaping into like health or fitness, you think that that would be such a positive thing, but then, that comes with, negative body image, that comes with self deprecating thoughts, that comes with just comparing yourself to other people. So I think a lot of the negativity that comes with escapism also comes with what mode you're choosing to escape in. If you're escaping in books, you might be crushing out like, so many books, reading and learning so much, which could be totally perceived as a positive. But at the same time, you might not be dealing with why you're choosing to escape through that route. Just like I might have not been dealing with why I'm choosing to focus so much on health and fitness. Maybe that has to do with body image, maybe that has to do with like negative self worth, self value, things like that. So I don't know. I think partly it depends on your situation and where you're choosing to escape in and why you're choosing to escape in there, because a lot of times you can do activities with such great intent, um, and then kind of just get lost in that intent and you don't remember why you started doing things in the first place. You could either be doing them out of habit, you could be doing them just because they make you feel better, in the short run, when in the long run escaping in those activities may not actually be benefiting your mental health. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of negatives that can come with it, along with a lot of positives. Not having to face your situation can feel like a short term positive, but in the long term, it's what are you sacrificing? when you're choosing to escape? Are you sacrificing dealing with that childhood trauma you've never dealt with? Are you sacrificing, you know, procrastinating on a problem or a situation that you need to do? You sacrificing getting things done by escaping. And so, yeah, it just kind of really depends on the situation, I think, um, and the reasons behind it.
That's a really good point in that you bring up this sort of idea that if if you do go to escape, that it's a trade-off. Like you're not just
Hmm.
gaining sort of the short-term happiness and things like that. You're sort of giving things up in order to do these sort of things. Like for example, like my previous example, playing games that much a day is not good for your health. And in all, it ruined my sleep schedule. I didn't eat as much. It's just like it was a really unhealthy sort of habit. And that's where I want to bring in the topic of addiction. So escapism, when you sort of decide to choose an activity or a set of activities or things to sort of get away from your problems, it feels really good. And the problem when things feel really good when you do them is that you want to keep doing them more and more. And in such as in my case, you get addicted to it. When you want to do something so deeply because it provides sort of the only light inside your life, and it might not be the only light, just a set of positive feelings and emotions that you really want, you sort of get stuck on it and you want to keep doing it. And every time when things get bad, the first thing you think in your head is, I want to do this because I want to feel happy. And this is I want to say it's an extremely destructive mindset. It's a mindset I had for a bit where, anytime that things went wrong, I would just turn to either I would turn to either video games or I would turn to just anything that would sort of get it away. You see this sort of kind of feedback loop with things like substance abuse, alcohol, drugs, things like that, sexual gratification. A lot of people are addicted to masturbation because it provides an instant source of happiness and good feelings that you can't get from your ordinary life. And although it may feel good, they're just like addiction to substances. Addiction to escapism is sort of it's a like a cumulative factor. You'll never actually sort of take away this root cause of your issues or of why your life is sort of why your life is very hard on you mentally and physically, is because you constantly are just looking for the shortest way to happiness. And the shortest way to happiness is often also the shortest periods of happiness that you have, so you need more and more and more of it, and it's sort of the snowball effect. And like coming from an addiction, now my addiction doesn't sound bad. Like an addiction to video games sounds like any kid thing, but addiction to anything concerned around escapism is, it's not the activity itself, although sometimes it can be. The main issue is the mindset. When you're stuck in the mindset that you can just do something to be happy, and that when things go wrong that you shouldn't, face your problems and you shouldn't work on them, or you shouldn't talk to other people about it, it creates a sort of habit where you just hold in all your problems. And because you never need to talk about it, because you keep band-aid fixing your emotional pain, it just sort of, it builds it up. And as it goes up more and more and more and more, and then eventually it spills out. And when it spills out, the fallout is terrible. It's really rough on a person when you sort of don't you don't offload it in a way that's actually healthy, talking about it or facing it. You're just offloading it into these activities. So sort of I want to propose, what ways can people sort of recognize that their escapism isn't necessarily just a break from reality and isn't necessarily just a hobby, but it's starting to become a very unhealthy thing.
Well, first of all, I mean, I feel like I just recommend this activity for everyone regarding, wherever you are in life, whatever you're going through, whether it's something big, something very small, journaling. I feel like journaling is such a great way to reflect on your habits, on your patterns, on your day to day. And by looking through past journaling entries, you can really see some correlating factors that are like going through your life, or some themes that are stringing along day to day with you. So if you're writing a journal, hey, I just went out and partied last night, and then you notice, hey, I'm still partying, like 2 weeks later, like every night, or I'm still, going out and try to meet this new guy or do whatever, like whatever your mean of escapism is. I feel like sometimes journaling can help us kind of recognize that and also kind of work through those feelings. But I feel like other ways to recognize your situation and evaluate whether your actions and the activities you're participating in, if that's becoming a negative detriment to your day to day through escapism or through really any kind of addiction of the sort. I think, talking with friends and hearing about their experience and, talking through your own experiences as well and, your day to day, I feel like bouncing off or actions and, different things that you guys both did with each other, you can kind of, if you recognize that your friend's talking about something that kind of sounds a little off, you can even kind of reflect in your own day to day and be like, hey, like, how many times a week am I going out? Like, how many times a week am I drinking or smoking or playing video games or not being productive enough? And then kind of just sitting on that feeling. And oftentimes, just through time, time kind of heals all, time tells all. Kind of recognizing those feelings may come, as a first in this initial awareness, and then kind of sitting with that feeling. And then every time you're, going to play a video game, or every time you're going to, go work out or go out, recognizing your habits while doing that activity and just trying to be aware of your actions and what you're actually doing. Because, I mean, of course, like playing a video game can just seem like so innocent and just not really like a big deal, just a good way to unwind, right? But, I know my brother like loves playing video games to a point where he'll play for like 12 hours straight. Not to try to rat him out or like call him out or anything, but it could definitely be like a little alarming. So, just looking at your friends, seeing how your friends are doing, and looking at yourself and your own actions, and seeing what you're doing day to day with your own habits and your own means of escaping. I just think that's like a good way to kind of like sit and reflect on those different things. But definitely through journaling. Like, I think that's just like the best way to do it. Journaling and talking to people, and just really reflecting and just evaluating your days and what you're filling them with. That's
I
what I think personally.
I will wholeheartedly support just about everything you said, especially the journaling and talking to other people. I
Yes,
think
we
those
love journaling.
I think those are honestly some of like the best ways that I've, handled my own addiction, my own escapism issues. And I think I would suggest that to just about every single person, because sort of writing things down makes your thoughts tangible. It makes you
Mhm.
really pour over what you're writing and what you're thinking about. And it's definitely a great way to sort of analyze your habits, sort of reflect on what you're doing and, where you're going and sort of how your thought process carries out, because when it's all in your head, sometimes it's confusing. Sometimes you just, don't know a whole ton about it. So I really agree with sort of that point. And I also want to build on sort of this tiny little part at the end of yours. You said something. You said that sometimes you just do these activities to unwind, and I feel like
Yeah.
we really harped on escapism. We really harped on all these activities, that people are doing as like negative ways of getting away from reality. But sometimes escapism is a positive thing that is just needed from like day in day out, because life is rough sometimes. Like you have a lot of stress, you have a lot of pressure, whether you be in school, whether you're at work, whether you're handling just different issues, especially nowadays with the whole virus and the crisis and things like that, where things may be really tough and really hard on you. Sometimes you need a break from all that, just as like for your mental health. Escapism is
Yeah.
sometimes just the equivalent of a mental health break and a mental health day, which I recommend that everyone at least take one day out of their week, have a mental health day. Even if you still got to do stuff, okay, but like try and really take care of yourself, because just one day a week of really focusing on benefiting your mental health sort of goes a really long way in terms of improving your mood and improving sort of your condition and your life over the course of weeks and weeks and months. And I want
Yeah,
to
like for sure. Like I feel like when you're stuck inside all day and quarantine's happening on the outs or on the inside and COVID's happening on the outside and you're just trying to deal with it all, even if it's not even during, this weird time in our world, even if it's just you're studying, you're doing school and or you're, at work or doing your classes or whatever, I feel like we all need to just escape from the stress of day-to-day lives just every once in a while. I mean, of course, I think we're kind of warning against going, you know, off the deep end with it a little bit. But I mean, if you want to take a personal day and you just say, hey, I'm not going to do anything all day, I'm just going to play video games, I'm just going to chill, maybe make myself a little margarita, relax, girl or boy, you just go do that. You just go have yourself a chill day where you just relax and decompress. And like that's fine. It's just knowing the balance between when you know you're going through something and just say you're going through a fresh breakup, you just had this thing happen to you, you're kind of going through it, you're kind of feeling it. If you recognize that, hey, maybe you're drinking a little more than you normally do, then just kind of reflect on it. Just pause and take it in and, journal, as we were saying before. Um, but yeah, I think it can be a positive thing, or you can have positive means of escaping. It doesn't have to be, something negative. There can be, yeah, like reading a book is like, I feel like a very positive way to just decompress and just escape from your current stress or anything like
And
that.
like you mentioned earlier, exercising. I think exercising is a great tool
Yeah.
because if you're coming home from a day of stress, whether it be at school or at work, and you're really tired. Now, okay, if you're really tired, you may not be in the head to exercise. I do like exercising when I'm tired because it sort of gives me energy back. But you're turning that stress and that energy into something positive for your body, and I think that's really good. And of course you can do other things. Like I really love watching movies. I think movies are such a fantastic like sort of medium in terms of like just I don't know. I love movies so much. It's just such an enjoyable activity, especially with friends, especially with family, especially with your significant other. Stay tuned for a movie episode in the future. But
Oh, yes.
like there's been countless days when I have come home from work. I used to work at a tea shop and I would work to midnight and I would be absolutely strung out, super tired. And so I would come home and I would say, you know what, I would turn on Netflix and just pick a movie that I thought looked cool and I would watch it. Even if it was bad, even if it was good, it was just nice because instead of criticizing or instead of feeling stressed out and feeling just worn out from the day or pissed off about a customer I didn't like or a customer that was mean to me or something like that, I would instead be pissed off about all the poor decisions made in this movie that I found on Netflix. And it's just such a sort of like recharge. And we all need a break sometimes. It just matters that the whole point is that you go through your life and escapism is good when you take a break and then you come back. But if you take a break and you spend too much time in that break, when that break becomes your life where it revolves around that, that's when the issues come around. And I think that if you keep really cognizant of sort of how much time you're spending on these activities or what role these activities you know kind of play in your life. Like if you're just doing something every night because you're tired from work and you just want to relax. I know plenty of dads out there that say that they have kids and stuff and they play video games, and you might be laughing, but it's just like the idea of like kind of middle-aged guys playing video games, but they do it just because childcare and work and things like that. They take a break from it because it's just how it is, and they say like, oh, I take like an hour or two per week just to play video games, just to relax. And I think that's really positive because we all get pretty tight strung nowadays, especially with this sort of mood of like really, really getting ingrained and focused on sort of like activities. Like I know plenty of people at our university that are really smart kids, but they're maybe too dedicated, too stressed out on themselves about getting good grades, about succeeding, about achieving, about fulfilling expectations that they sort of they really decline in their mental health. And sometimes you got to grab them by the arm and say, hey, you've been studying 12 hours per day, just go get a margarita with me. And then you do it as a good friend. So i really
Yeah.
think I really think escapism has like a positive role in terms of like it represents this issue that I think is really widespread, and I think this is going to be a common theme through a lot of our episodes, is that mental health I feel is not talked about enough, and too many people are ignoring the issue that mental health is and how important it is in every person's day-to-day life. And sort of, if by being cognizant of what you do to sort of help your mental health, it also brings mental health into the forefront of your thinking, and I think that's really positive.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that, as you're saying, like it can be like escapism can be very positive. You know, you can, like for me, I feel like I just always need that time to myself to take a bath, escape in a movie, or go get a margarita with my friends after a really stressful and heavy exam week. And I'll think it's about balance and not just picking yourself apart for everything you do, but just, kind of just take a reflection. Up, I feel like I just had a whole big world word jamble in my mouth, like just a word vomit come out. But like reflecting on your day to days, reflecting on your habits and just how you're feeling, and just paying attention to your mental health. And I feel like sometimes something we should probably touch about is it can be really hard for people to reflect. I feel like, me and John, we're kind of, I don't know. We're kind of crazy. Like we have the best talks just about the most like random, weird stuff. Like everything's on the table with us. And, I feel like we're very aware of ourselves.
Typically
Uh,
over yogurt.
yeah, we typically over yogurt. Exactly. Super good. Love froyo. But yeah, just I feel like we might be a little more self-aware than like some other people might be, and it can be a little hard to tap into that emotional side to yourself if you've never really tapped into that before. So be easy on yourself, journal, talk to a friend. It doesn't have to be some crazy thing where you analyze all your habits and everything you're doing and trying to see, okay, like where can I change things? But just be aware, and be kind to yourself. And yeah, I don't know. That's just what I think. I
It's
kind of forgot what you said with my little word jamble, honestly, but I don't know. Anyways.
that's actually a really great point, and that we're here, we're sitting down on a podcast episode, and we're saying, oh, just reflect, just sort of
Yeah.
analyze and really go over. But we also understand how hard that might be. It's really hard sometimes to get out your own head, or really kind of like break down maybe what you're doing in your life. And like Hallie says, like you don't have to make it extreme. You don't have to go out of your way to sort of dissect your brain and write down and create and analyze, or like go and find a psychologist so he or she can like break down your brain. You don't have to do that. And sort of like what we want to promote here on the show is sort of this awareness of mental health. I think like really half the battle is just being aware of how important mental health is. And so when when you might be struggling with something, just talk to someone, or maybe go do something that's just focused on helping your mental health, even if you don't know what's going on. For a lot of my time with depression, I didn't even have a name for what I was feeling. All I knew was that I was feeling bad and I needed to do something about it. And although the thing I did wasn't that positive, it eventually became positive. So we really want to focus on sort of like Hallie said, the whole podcast is themed after like this motto: be kind to yourself. And we really want like our listeners, our viewers, just anyone, that sort of our greatest advice could be kind to yourself. Take the time to sort of give yourself a break. Don't be too hard on yourself. Don't expect too much from yourself. Go out and give yourself a break sometimes. I Because life is stressful. Reality and the world we live in is not the best. And especially right now, considering the virus and the pandemic and all that, it's hard sometimes to sort of get away from how hard you need to focus, or how hard you need to work on so many different things. People are without jobs, people are struggling with online school and things like that, and transitions and all sorts of things. But although we here on the show can't walk in and solve all those issues as much as we would like to, what we want to do is promote what you can do to sort of protect yourself mentally and aid yourself mentally as time goes on. Because sort of if you don't save yourself from like all this mental pressure, all this emotional pressure, then you won't be able to sort of conquer the rest of the world or the rest of the issues that come with sort of living on the great blue ball that is Earth. So take care of yourselves. That
Yeah.
a message from both me and Hallie in our most
Yes.
earnest way is take care of
Yeah,
yourselves. Be kind to
totally.
yourselves every day, every minute, every hour. Because if you are kind to yourself, if you're willing to give yourself love and attention, then you're gonna realize, how great of a person you are, and you're gonna realize how much better life gets when you have your own support, when you have your own back.
Yeah, I really feel like something just that as you're saying, like, we're trying to make mental health kinda on the forefront of everyone's minds, and I feel like something that isn't emphasized nearly enough as it should be is we all have the power to connect with ourselves, to be our own best friends, to get to know each other on just such a deep and personal level, and I really think it's so kinda like, what John was saying, it's so important to just carve time out for yourself and get to know yourself. To quote RuPaul from RuPaul's Drag Race, if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love anybody else? Or along those lines, you got to really get to know yourself
That's a good
before.
quote. I
It's
like
it's an
that.
excellent quote. Love that show. Love RuPaul. But yeah, I feel like you just really have to carve out that time and get to know yourself because the world is just so demanding, even more demanding from our parents' generation or anyone that really like just in a really different way though with like technology and social media and just we got like so much shit going on. It's just sometimes I just look at the world and I'm like, literally, how is this happening? So just taking a break, just sometimes just spacing out and just tuning into yourself is really the best way to cope with those things and get to know yourself that way. So
I think
yeah, I guess that's what I'd
absolutely,
add.
absolutely great. Finalizing idea. That's gonna be just about all the time we have for this episode.
Final thoughts.
So I do want to inform our viewers about sort of this segment that we want to have at the end of every episode. It's going to be like a Q&A segment. Um, on our Twitter at BKTY podcast, there's going to be a pinned tweet, and under that tweet, you can sort of submit any questions that you want to ask. And at the end of every podcast episode from here on out, me and Hallie are going to pick out a few questions that we want to answer, and we're just going to respond to them, back and forth a little bit as sort of an end episode segment. It doesn't have to be related to the episode's topic or anything like that, although it can be if you would like. So we do want to say thank you for tuning in to the BKTY podcast. You can find all updates and
Yes.
information on our Twitter at BKTY podcast. Don't forget to submit any questions you would like to be featured in the next episode.
Wait, John,
And
should we start off and ask each other a little Q&A question?
do you
Just
want
one
to? Would you
I
like?
mean, I would do it if we
All right.
started out strong,
All
set the
right.
tone for the series.
Okay, so I'll let you take the reins since this is your idea.
Oh
What,
god.
what what question would you like to ask?
um what
I got you caught
Okay.
now, don't I?
Okay, yeah, a little bit. Okay, but I have it. All right. It's what are you doing to cope with this quarantine and your mental like what is your just like top 3 activities you're doing to just stay sane during this quarantine and keep your mental health in check?
Okay,
That's my
so
question.
excellent question. Top of the list. The one thing I've done is going out of my way to talk to my friends. A lot of people say, oh, I can't talk to my friends or things like that. Well, I have a phone. I have video calling and things like that. So I've gone out of my way to try and contact, just about any of my friends, and we don't even have to have a conversation. I literally just call them and ask them, how are you doing? And they're so appreciative. They're always like, oh wow, I didn't expect you to like call me, or like thank you for calling me, because it means so much to people to just have someone check in on them. And I think that's a really positive thing you can do, because like when someone calls or texts me and asks you, hey, how are you doing, are you doing okay with the quarantine and all, even if we don't have a conversation, it makes me feel great, because it means that there are people that care about me, and I try to return the favor by showing people that I care about them too, that when things get bad, I do care about the well-being of my friends and sort of like, how they're doing. So I try to go out of my way to sort of just contact friends, just talk to people, because I think the harshest thing about quarantine is just you can't talk to people as often. And so
Facts.
using the technology of the 21st century, I do my best to try and call up people, try to sort of video chat my friends. I have a group of friends, so we do trivia every week on Zoom, so that's
Oh,
pretty fun. And then in terms of other things, I think second on the list would probably just be sort of hobbies. For example, I don't know if you know, but I'm starting up a podcast. It's pretty great.
what?
Yeah,
No way. Literally
wonderful,
no
wonderful.
way.
The first episode, I'm recording it currently, but
Wonderful. Love that.
sort of
Love to see it.
starting projects like I write fiction and sort of this sort of starting up a podcast, just big sort of like things I can just work on. I think is really important because every day it gives you something to look forward to instead of every day being really dreary, really the same, never being able to escape the cycle of like wake up, eat, sleep, go back to bed, or wake up, go to work, come home, eat, go to bed. It gives a sort of a different sort of flavor to every day. You always have something to look forward to. You always have something to sort of cumulatively work on. I think that's really positive. And then the last thing, I'll probably say video games, just because
Just tying it back into the
I
podcast.
don't necessarily play as much as I used to, but it's definitely still one of my favorite activities to do. I still watch movies, I
Yeah.
still read books. Just general media is sometimes good to just get your head out of the clouds and things
Yeah.
like that. All right,
I
Hallie.
love that.
I'll send you right back with the Q&A question. One last question, and I want to
Okay.
ask. All right,
Okay.
what is sort of the kind of best way to learn a new skill, seeing as we have so much time right now?
Ooh, that's actually a really good it's, like, much more thoughtful, I think, than
No,
the
no,
question
no.
I asked.
Both questions are good. Don't sell yourself short.
Okay, okay, you're right. Okay, so best way to learn a skill? Um, well, duh, we got the whole fucking internet at our disposal, alright? And so I just, like, you know, one of the things, while you were talking, I was thinking about is like, isn't it so weird that like this pandemic is happening right now during the 21st century when we have so much like technology at our hands and we can like video chat with our friends and all that stuff? Like, it's kind of the same thing with the skills. Like, go on YouTube. If you want to learn how to play guitar, look up like a guitar or tutorial for your favorite song, or go on Pinterest, look up ideas for ways to DIY your clothes, or I'm just saying this because it's like the stuff I'm interested in. But if you want to learn how to paint, or you want to learn how to like write, or whatever it may be, YouTube's a great free way to do that. I'm sure a lot of people have definitely looked up their fair share of things on there. But also something else that's really cool that I think not a lot of people know about is there's different websites called, Skillshare, where you can look up different skills. And I believe you have to pay for that, which is definitely why I recommend YouTube. I guess way before that. But you have to look up, you can look up whatever skills or hobbies you're trying to learn, and they have like whole classes that will teach you how to sew, that will teach you how to cook, that will teach you how to do literally whatever you want. So yeah, there's stuff like that. There's also masterclass, which has cool classes that are taught by um, just like top professionals in their fields. Like Anna Wintour, she teaches a master class about leadership and the fashion industry. I don't know whether you know this, John, but she's the editor in chief in Vogue, for Vogue. And so, you can find these different websites that are literally teaching classes for skills that, you've always wanted to learn, but you've never had the time to learn them. Well, now you do. And so, you don't need to be some overproductive genius, but take advantage of technology while we can. And take time for yourself to like learn the things that you want to learn that give you joy and like a spark in your life. So, long fucking story short, YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram, even TikTok, and just look all over the internet. You guys got it.
All right, I'll agree with that all. I'll agree
Yeah.
with just about all of that. And
Long
I
rant
also
over
want to
there.
say that we're not sponsored by anyone as much as it sounds like we
No.
are. Uh,
Nope.
Although if someone wants to sponsor us,
Go ahead. We're
do
we're
do
into that.
email us. I would not mind. But
Do we have an email?
no.
Oh,
Wait,
okay.
yes, yes,
Well,
we
we'll
do.
we'll work on that. We'll
It's the
Okay.
first episode. We'll give ourselves a break.
Honestly, yeah, who the hell cares? We'll figure out an email later,
All
whatever.
right.
But
So
yeah.
that is all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning into the
Yes.
BKTY podcast. You can find all updates and information on our Twitter at BKTY podcast. So, like I said, like I
Yes.
mentioned earlier,
Yeah, before I
re-
interrupted you.
no, no, perfectly fine. Do remember to sort of visit our Twitter to submit your question for a chance to be featured on the next episode. And to all of our listeners, we want to say have a wonderful day. And please, please, please don't forget to be kind to yourselves. See you next time.
Yes. Bye.